Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to the Yapper's Box. Today, I am beginning a brand new segment of episodes to go along with Award Robberies, which already has 11 episodes, and if you want to watch them, click the link in the description that will take you to the playlist. And now, introducing, drumroll please, the greatest offensive seasons of all time. Yes, you heard that correctly. Over the next 6 episodes, I will be sharing with you what I think are the 5 greatest offensive seasons of all time per position since the modern era of baseball began. That's right, per position. So, if you paid attention when you clicked on this video, you will have noticed that today's episode is covering the top 5 catching seasons of all time, and the next episode will be first baseman, and so on and so forth. For this segment, I will be using a combination of raw statistics and sabermetrics like weighted runs created plus, which allow us to see how a player compares to others / league average. In order to successfully meet the criteria for these lists, a player must have qualified for a batting title that season, aka they must have had around 502 plate appearances and played at least 75% of their games at said position. Defense will not be taken into account for these videos at all. We only somewhat recently began tracking advanced and truly reliable defensive data, so it's virtually impossible to compare a player like Aaron Judge and Stan Musial defensively. If anyone has any issues at all with this, please let me know in the comments down below so I can potentially make adjustments on the next video. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting at number 5, we have a very recent campaign cracking our list. The 2021 season of Kansas City Royals catcher Sal Perez. That season, Perez led all of Major League Baseball in home runs with 48, and also led all of Major League Baseball in runs batted in with 121. Along with Johnny Bench, Perez became just the second catcher to ever lead the MLB in both of those categories, and his 48 home runs remain the most ever hit by a catcher in a single season. Across 161 games, which is also quite impressive, Perez batted .273, a very respectable number in today's game. If you hit more home runs than anybody ever has at your position, there's a good chance you're going to crack this list. Perez's batting average and .316 on base were the only things holding him back here. Let's move on to number 4. This spot goes to the 2009 campaign of recent Hall of Fame inductee Joe Mauer. Mauer won AL MVP in 2009, and a lot of that had to do with his ridiculous .365 batting average, the highest mark in all of baseball that season, and the highest batting average by a catcher ever. Mauer reached base at a ridiculous .444 rate that season, good for best in all of baseball, and third highest by a catcher in baseball history. As for the American League in 2009, the ex-Twin led all qualified hitters in slugging percentage, OPS, and weighted runs created plus. Not to mention, he did all of that to the tune of 28 home runs and 96 RBIs. What a season by Mauer. Coming in at number 3 on the list, we have the 1970 campaign of Reds legend Johnny Bench. The National League MVP winner that season, Bench smashed a Major League best 45 home runs and drove in a Major League best 148 runs. Bench's 45 home runs are the second most that a catcher has ever hit, and those 148 RBIs are the most that a catcher has ever totaled. To go along with the power, the Hall of Famer batted at a .293 clip and slugged .587, which contributed to his .932 OPS. Bench's 355 total bases in 1970 are tied for the most by a catcher in a single season ever. A truly historical campaign here that rightfully gets him just above Mauer, in my opinion, for the number 3 spot on today's list. Now for the number 2 spot on our list, this is going to the 1953 campaign of Brooklyn Dodger catcher Roy Campanella. Campanella took home NL MVP honors in 1953 with a .312 batting average, 41 home runs, and 142 ribbies, which led the National League. He finished his season with an OPS of over 1,000, 1.006, making him just the second catcher to ever hit 300 with 40 home runs, 100 ribbies, and finish with an OPS over 1,000. I'll give you a hint, the number 1 spot on this list is the other player that has reached that mark. A little bit more on Campanella. His 41 homers are good for the 3rd most by a catcher ever, and those 142 ribbies, the 2nd most by a catcher ever. Now, I realize that Bench's 1970 campaign did have better power numbers than Campanella's 1953. But what really sold me here was the .312 batting average, almost 20 points higher than Bench's, and the fact that Campanella is in some truly elite company, being only the 2nd catcher to ever slash what we discussed earlier. And now, let's turn our attention to the greatest offensive season of all time by a catcher. Give it up for the 1997 season of Los Angeles Dodgers catcher Mike Piazza. That season, Piazza finished with an astounding .362 batting average, 40 home runs, and 124 RBIs. Piazza's 1.070 OPS is the highest mark ever recorded by a catcher. The .362 batting average is tied for the 2nd highest mark by a catcher ever. The 40 home runs are tied for the 4th most ever hit by a catcher, and the 124 ribbies are tied for the 7th most by a catcher ever. Piazza's 355 total bases are tied for the most in MLB history by a catcher. Piazza's 183 WRC plus is the highest by a catcher ever. Quite the historical campaign here from Piazza, and while he only set a record in OPS, every other major statistic here is relatively close to the best marks of all time, making this the best overall offensive season by a catcher. Well, there you have it, folks. Do you agree with my analysis? Do you passionately disagree? I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe so that you can check out the other videos I have sharing the craziest award snubs in MLB history, as well as to be notified about the upcoming videos in this series. As always, thank you guys for the support, and we'll see you soon.